Hi everyone, Abby here, and welcome back to my channel, AbbyBCruising, or welcome if you're new. Here on this channel, I do cruise ship reviews and traveling content. And today I'm going to be reviewing Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas cruise ship, a ship that I recently got off of for a 6-night sailing out of Orlando, Florida. So I'm going to talk about the good and the bad of this cruise ship, things that I have experienced. And trust me, there's definitely some bad things that happen. Now I'm going to be talking about food, activities, entertainment, price of the cruise, customer service, the ports of call, the room, and more. But before I get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, so you can stay tuned to all my new videos dropping monthly and so you can help the channel grow. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers, guys, and you recently helped me hit 500 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that. Really appreciate all of you who have subscribed, and to my viewers who are not subscribed yet, come on and join the family. So the first thing I want to talk about is the embarkation process, how it was getting on the cruise. So this cruise ship did start in Port Canaveral, which is in Orlando, Florida. There was definitely traffic in the area, so I would 100% say leave early. Once we arrived, we dropped off our suitcases with the staff out there, like our big checked luggages. They take your large luggages, the cruise staff, and then it is delivered to your room later the first night of the cruise. So you're going to need to put luggage tags onto your luggage. Now, what I do is I use these little cruise tags. They're these plastic things, and you just use this and it loops around your suitcase, and then you can just kind of tie them on. I've had this for probably over 5 years now. They are reusable and they've been lasting a long time, so I definitely recommend them. They're pretty affordable too. I'll have them linked in the description if you're interested. But something like that is super handy because one, you can keep reusing it, but it's also waterproof. You don't have to worry about the tag getting wet and people not being able to read it. Now the staff had to direct us where to go because there was construction and it was super confusing. We kind of went through this little bit of a maze and then we found our way to the terminal entrance. We did arrive early. We were around 15 minutes early to our check-in time, which was 10:30 a.m. Now, when we went in, there was unfortunately a line. Good thing is the line was pretty fast moving, so we just had to show our set sail pass, which is basically like your ticket to get onto the cruise ship. Now you can print that out, which I'd recommend, or you can show it on your phone. So once we got there, they did scan all of our carry-on bags and they scan you. You walk through, one of those body scanners as well. Now you do need to show valid ID to get on the ship. If you are an American citizen, you can show a driver's license. If you're coming from somewhere international, you can show either a passport or, like a visa, something like that. Now, after we did all of that, unfortunately, there was more waiting. They sat us in this room to wait to get onto the cruise ship. So there was about 30 minutes or so it took to, do the whole embarkation process. Once we got on the ship, we did our safety drill in the app. You're gonna go through, you watch videos, you kind of listen to safety information there on what to do in case of an emergency.
We then found our muster station, which is actually on your set sail pass.
We just showed them we completed it on the app, and then we got our names checked off. So then after we checked in, it was time to eat. So now I'm gonna talk about the food. Adventure of the Seas is kind of a mid-sized cruise ship, one of Royal Caribbean's older cruise ships. It came out in 2001. However, despite its age, it does have a good amount of food options, which I think the variety of foods they have would work well for most people. Now, they do have complimentary things that are included in your cruise fare, and there's also a few specialty dining options if you do want to pay a bit extra for an elevated meal. And if you're finding this video helpful so far, please go ahead and smash that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. So when it comes to the complimentary food options, the first option we have is the Windjammer, which is your onboard buffet, which has grab-and-go selections that are ready for you. It's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's also a pasta bar if you want to make pasta. There's an egg station at breakfast time if you want to make your omelet or egg dishes. And they always have a rotating menu for dinner. So you could see Indian food, Italian food, Caribbean food, and more. And they also always have a selection of like juice, teas, coffee, water that are all complimentary as well. Now, another option for complimentary food is the main dining room, which is where you're going to sit down for your classic fine dining experience where you get 3 courses of meals, your appetizer, your main, and your dessert. And they also have a rotating menu of different themed days. For example, they have like a Embarkation Day special, Caribbean food, Mexican food, French food, and more. The main dining room is my personal favorite, somewhere where I ate majority of the time because they handle eating restrictions super well, and I do have celiac disease, so I need to eat gluten-free, and they did a great job handling that. They also do have a kid menu as well if you're traveling with little ones and you want to bring them to the main dining room. Another option for complimentary food is Sorrento's Pizza, which is your onboard pizzeria. area where you can grab slices of pizza for lunch and for dinner. Now they always have your pepperoni and your cheese available, but if you want a veggie or if you want gluten-free or if you want to order a whole pizza, you can definitely do that. In addition to pizza, they always had little desserts and they had sandwiches as well that would rotate on a daily basis. Make your own coffee. They have decaf, regular, you can put your milk, your cream, your sugar, all that. They have a huge variety of tea and water as well. Another complimentary option you can get is soft serve ice cream, which they have on the pool deck. You can get chocolate, vanilla, or a swirl, and they can give it to you on a little cone, or you can have it out of a cup or a bowl as well. Now onto our specialty dining, the paid options. First one is Chops Grill. So if you want to have a nice steak, you can go to the steakhouse here and get steak. You can get surf and turf and more. At Chops Grill, you just pay one set fee and then you get multiple courses of food.
Another specialty dining option is Starbucks. You can get your caffeine fix at sea. This is a great option if you want to upgrade and you don't want to just get the regular coffee that's included.
Another option for specialty dining is Azumi, which you can get Japanese food like sushi, sashimi, mochi, stuff like that. Another specialty dining option is Chef's Table, which is basically you sign up for a multiple course meal where they give you very high class, fancy foods. Another specialty dining option is Johnny Rockets, which is classic American diner food. You can get things like burgers, milkshakes, sandwiches. The last specialty dining option is Giovanni's Table, which you can go for some Italian food. I did not do any specialty dining this cruise, but I went to every single complimentary dining options and I spoke to people who went to the specialty dining, so I got a good feel of the different food options on board. Now I'm going to be doing a separate review just on the food because that alone is a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be sharing gluten-free options as well along the way, as well as the regular options, because I went cruising with a group of people and pretty much everyone was not eating gluten-free, so I'm going to show you guys a lot of different food in that video. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for that. Now, I will say the food overall was great. There were some one-offs that were kind of like, what are you doing? This is really bad. But on a whole, great food.
Honestly, some of the best food I've ever had.
So that surprised me because I honestly had a bit low expectations coming in because it was an older ship. All right, guys, so now I'm gonna talk about the demographics on board. So this is a section I like to include in my reviews because something that I do notice as I am cruising, and it's something I think, some people do care about when they're going on vacation. So first, starting off with the ages, I would say the largest group for the ages, adults between 30 to 60. They made up definitely the majority of the people on the cruise ship. I would say the next largest group would be families who had young children, little babies, toddlers, tweens, teens. They made up the next biggest group. I would say the smallest age group on this ship was seniors. I'd say around 10% or so. And when I say seniors, I mean the technical term of 65 and up. That was definitely the smallest group on this cruise ship, but still, a good amount of them for sure. And there was around 5% of solo travelers as well, just not a huge amount, but they were definitely there. Now, when it comes to the demographic on board, I would say it was predominantly white or Caucasian, around 50%. The next kind of highest demographic was Black, around 20% or so, and then there was around 20% Asians as well. It's kind of very even there. And there was a lower amount of Mediterranean as well as Hispanic individuals. So it was definitely pretty multicultural, seeing everybody together, which I always love to see. But that's kind of what I noticed walking around the ship, speaking to people as well. Now, when it comes to the nationalities, it was predominantly American, and then it was Canadian. The rest of the percentages came from the UK and from Asia predominantly. So there was actually a good amount of different countries on this cruise ship as well, which is pretty cool to see. All right, guys, when it comes to the entertainment on board, Adventure of the Seas actually had a good amount of entertainment options. So for me, entertainment are really things that you're kind of sitting and watching, not so much actively participating in. I would call those more activities. So for the entertainment, there were people who were singing, people who were dancing. There was a magic show, there was a comedian who did an adult only, and then there was a family-friendly version as well. Another show that you could see on the cruise ship was the ice skating show, which is my personal favorite. It was so good. Skaters were so talented and it was a lot of fun to see. I've never seen some of the things I've seen in an ice skating show on this one before, so it's definitely unique. And there was a bunch of different genres of music. There was rock music, there was jazz, there was Caribbean music, there was Latin music, and fantastic. Just music across the board. I'd say these people were very talented. I really enjoyed it. And here's some music so you guys can hear for yourself. No, it's not. Watch a movie. So they had seaside movies playing on the big screen there. Another great entertainment piece was the shows. So they didn't have typical Broadway shows on Adventure of the Seas, but they did have some kind of like Royal Caribbean shows. A lot of kind of singing and dancing. The actors were very talented. Cruise director as well was also singing, which was a first for me. You never really see that. When I was watching one of the shows, there was this girl like right beside me and she was literally like screaming on the top of her lungs. I don't know if she was intoxicated or what was going on. Interesting experience for sure. So now I'm gonna talk about activities. So for the activities, they had a lot to do. So there was the casino, which you can go to gamble, and they had free classes as well to teach you how to do it. The casino, I would say, was very smoky. So I did not really enjoy being in there at all. They had different daily trivia.
Track number 6, we have Red Wine by.
It's like music related, TV show, pop culture. They had a game, it's like a scavenger hunt for the crew, where you were kind of meeting the crew and trying to get people from like all over the world to sign your paper. Spoke to a lot of different crew members, and that was something I found really interesting because I've never done that on any other cruise ship. Another activity you can do is you can do a workout class.
Interlock your hands behind your back, and now lift your front body up. Okay? Yeah. Hold. Slowly lift your front body up and look straight up to the stage.
So some of them are free, some of them are paid. They also had dance classes that you can partake in for free. There was also scavenger hunts, and there was the adult game show, you know, Crazy Quest, and there was the girls versus the guys.
All right, let's go. Do not repeat the song. 3, 2, 1.
M-O-V-E.
Shakira.
She's choosing Texas. Life in the fast lane.
You get the best.
I got my big green 4.
Moment of honesty.
California cake.
God bless the U.S.
Hey.
Oh, Canada.
I need you to create the image of any scene from the movie Titanic. Go! 3, 2, 1. Okay, ladies, what is happening here? I'm Jack. Please let me go. You're gonna go. I'm the board. I'm also the board. Do you see how much space there is, Jack? So much space on this board. Jack can move.
Space for 2 people.
I'm the boat.
And there was also, Royal Caribbean classics like the Sexiest Man competition, and there was the belly flop competition. They also had something new for me, which was the Price is Right on a cruise ship, where all of the guests play on your phone, and people who get the answers the closest actually get to go up on stage to win real cash and prizes.
And what's more, someone could walk away with a new car!
McKenna, we're going to have some fun with you. George, Gray, tell us what game we're playing.
Get ready because
I hated this. This would be so hard.
3. 1, 2, 3.
Drop that shit!
There we go. And now it's in action. All right, where's this thing going to land? It's in a good spot right now. It is in a good spot right now.
One.
Hearing over there. Oh. Come on, give us a way to get started.
Another activity you can do is going swimming. So they did have a pool on board. They also had multiple hot tubs, and they had a little adult-only solarium where you had to be 18 or older to go into. So you can do that as well without the kids running around.
And for the kids and adults, there are water slides on board. So if you want to tackle those, you can do it. And for the younger kids, they do have a little splash and play area with little slides and some water. And of course, I told you guys the main demographic is from 30s and up. So a lot of people like to do some nightlife activities, which are parties, going to the club, stuff like that.
And there's also sunbathing. There was a variety of chairs that are on, all around the ship. You can go walking. There's a jogging track on the top of the ship. Another activity was the surf simulator. So if you want to take your try at surfing or boogie boarding, they had that as well. And that is something you can do complimentary, you don't have to pay for. You did have to sign up for it in advance though. And when I went, it was kind of booked, unfortunately, but I did get to watch some people do it, which was fun to see. Another activity you can do is rock climbing, complimentary as well. Another option was ice skating. So I always love to have ice skating on board. I think it's such a fun thing to just have on a cruise ship randomly. And of course, something you can do as a activity is just kind of relaxing by the ocean and watching the sea views. And one of the best things about Adventure of the Seas, a lot of windows around the ship. So you don't really feel like you're kind of stuck on a floating city per se, because there's so much ocean views, and they kind of took that away from a lot of the bigger cruise ships. So I love seeing there's ocean views all over and just kind of all around the ship. Even if you want to just like walk out, there's like decks you can walk on and look out. So I just like that there's a lot of sea views around. Of course, another activity you can do is people watching. They have different lounges. You can play mini golf. They had a big mini golf course that you could play, which was a lot of fun to do.
Another activity you can do is play bingo, which was a lot of fun, but pretty expensive on this ship. In addition to that, you can go to the sports court and play basketball, pickleball, volleyball, and more. There's also an arcade, which is good for the young ones and those young at heart. A lot of different games you can play here. And I do want to shout out that if you do have little children or babies, they do have the Adventure Ocean, where Royal Caribbean trained staff will watch your children for you. Depending on their age, there may be a fee, but it's an option if you want to have, a dinner alone or something without the baby for a little bit. And there's also a teen lounge and a tween lounge. A lot of different great activities for the kids to meet one another and hang out and do some fun games. Now there are also art auctions on board. Now you can go to these auctions if you want to collect pieces of art, bid on them, or you could even go for the champagne, which is complimentary, or for the chance of winning a free piece of art. I always love going to art auctions myself.
And a thunderous round of applause!
When you are looking to book a stateroom on the ship, there are different options that you can choose. You can choose interior, no windows. You can choose ocean view, which has a window. You can choose a balcony, which is a balcony to the sea, so you have sea views. You can also choose a suite of different options as well. And the higher you go on that list, the more expensive it will be. We did choose solo interior, there was a regular interior, and an ocean view. So if you guys want to see the breakdown of all of those, I've done a
room tour,
the staterooms that we stayed in, which will come up at the top right, also linked in the description below. For the solo interior, the nice thing about it is that those were really new cruise ship rooms. They were kind of added later on in a renovation to Adventure of the Seas. All the rooms had a TV, they had a mini fridge, had a vanity area where you can sit down, do your makeup. There's a little chair if you want to get some work done, although the chairs are not super comfortable. For the ocean view cabin, it's nice to be able to see outside and not be completely dark, but we did notice that the ocean view room did get a lot hotter than the interior because the sun was kind of constantly coming in, where the interior rooms were definitely a lot cooler, so something I did want to mention. And the interior rooms were pretty spacious for interior compared to some of the newer cruise ships. I will say my stateroom attendant did a pretty good job. I was happy because my last few cruises, it was a mess. This stateroom attendant, he did clean, you know. I did like that my stateroom attendant in particular, if I made any requests, like I'd ask for an extra blanket, ask for a robe, he would bring them pretty quickly, and I didn't have to tell him something twice. Cleaning could have been a little bit better because I did notice that he didn't really clean the shower at all. So he did kind of wipe down the counter, the toilets were clean, but the shower was not, so that's something I think that he should do better. I don't really like to complain too much because I know they're dealing with a lot of rooms, but it does make me a little bit frustrated when they're not cleaning efficiently. I did miss out on the not having a balcony a little bit, but I did like that the room was quiet. It was cool, the air conditioning worked really well, and the location was really close to the elevators, which is nice so we can get to food and gym and other areas we needed to go to. So there was an onboard spa and a gym. The gym did have, I think, everything you need to get a workout in. They had your weight machines for your arms, chest, legs. They had weights that you can use. They had treadmills, bike machines, ellipticals, rowing machines. There was also a little area where you can do stretching and yoga, which I appreciated. And they had yoga mats as well as, like, you know, the cleaning solution so you can make sure everything's sanitized before or after you use it. And they had a bunch of towels, change room and stuff like that as well. The gym was like packed in the mornings. If you hit like 9 to 11, it was crazy, but I like to go earlier, so it wasn't too bad when I went early. In addition to the gym, there was a spa kind of connected to it, and the spas does have your, you know, typical things, like if you want to do a facial or if you want to get a pedicure, manicure, haircut, they have all of that available for you, as well as if you want to do like acupuncture, teeth whitening, all that stuff. Now, the people in the spa were so friendly and helpful. As I mentioned, we were doing the crew scavenger hunt, so I spoke to a lot of different crew all over the ship. And the people in the spa and in the gym were like the most personality, so I really appreciated that. They were really fun to talk to. So I did purchase Wi-Fi to use on board, the stream and surf package, you know, the fastest one that I could get. Now, I wanted Wi-Fi so I could keep up with my, you know, YouTube, use it for work, etc. The Wi-Fi was pretty good. Now, wherever I was on the ship, I would stay connected. I was sharing the Wi-Fi with somebody else, and there was issues of, you know, a third person coming on and then I'd get kicked out. So I wish they could make it different if you're sharing it, that everyone could have different codes so it wouldn't kick people out that way, because usually I just do it by myself and I don't share with other people. If I was surfing the internet, doing emails, anything like that, it was super, super speedy. When you were watching content, if it was like 1080p or lower resolution, it would load without any buffering. If you're watching like 4K video, like a YouTube or Netflix or something, sometimes there was some buffering, I'd noticed. If you were planning to upload anything, like for me, I uploaded a YouTube video, it took forever. It literally took 4.5 hours to upload a 10-minute video. So it was very slow, but I don't think most people are gonna be uploading, but that's something I did want to mention. So on Adventure of the Seas, there was an issue with the cleanliness. Now, I don't want to be that person, but I do notice things. In the food venues, dirty plates and cups left around. Mind you, done by the passengers, I get that, but there should have been people who were on it. There was constantly, from going in the Windjammer, there was like dirty plates around, which would take a while for staff to pick it up, so it did make it hard to find tables at times. And you know, people outside of their rooms when they're done eating, they'll leave plates out. Those were there for legitimately hours, so I think the staff should have been more on it when it came to kind of picking up stuff. When it comes to the bathrooms on board, like the public bathrooms, they were always very clean. So I think that they were doing a great job there. They were stocked with toilet paper, soap, all that. There was never any issues with the public bathrooms. I also appreciated that they did have some hand wash stations at, you know, the Windjammer, because it's always better to kind of wash with soap and water. But they also had some sanitizer stations around the ship, like from the main dining room and other venues, which I also really appreciated because there's a lot of people on a cruise ship, so you want to make sure to keep your hands clean to kind of fight off the germs. So the last thing about cleanliness that there was an issue for me was in the main dining room. So I was eating there a lot, as I told you guys, because they handled my eating restrictions very well. 4 out of 5 times I had an issue with either my cutlery or my plates, something. And it was always me. I'd be sitting there with other people at the table. My cup literally had lipstick marks on it the one day, my water cup. And they didn't notice that. Another day there was like food marks on my cup. There was cutlery. There was food marks on the cutlery, and just, it was gross. And mind you, I went for breakfast a lot of the time. When you go for breakfast, you eat at random different spots wherever they want to put you. And every time for breakfast, there was an issue with either my cutlery, with my plate, with something. Like they need to get it together for the dishwashing and for, you know, the laundry, which was very frustrating to me because the food quality was great, but the cleanliness made me very apprehensive about, you know, eating there. And one thing in particular that I found absolutely disgusting was that my husband and I went for breakfast and they poured some water. Now my husband picks up his glass. There was a black thing floating in the water, a black thing this big. Now I was like, what's in your drink? And he's like, huh? He looked down and he went like this, fished it out, flicked it. You know what that was? It was a bug. There was a bug floating in his water. I literally was so grossed out. I've never had that happen to me any restaurant ever, but
when he flicked it, I was like, no, what are you doing? We needed to show the waiter, like this is not something that should be happening. I also wanted to record it for you guys, but I didn't have a chance.
So I was like, I'm not drinking the water anymore. I literally brought water on board with me, like water bottles, so I was drinking that. I was also drinking like teas and stuff from the machines. So sorry if that grossed you guys out. It grossed me out thinking about it. I'm like, ugh. So the service on this ship, I'd say by and large, was great. I spoke to customer service a couple times to get some information, to solve issues, just in general. The customer service line at times can get very long, especially on like the first day and the last night, but they were always keeping the line moving and they're always very helpful, very positive. We also spoke to people at like the next cruise desk. They were super helpful, the loyalty desk as well. When we were walking around the ship, you know, people would smile at you, they'd say hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever, stuff like that. And the bartenders were fantastic. They were quick and they would always ask you if you needed more, even if it was just water. Like they didn't try to upsell you and like hassle you to buy more. They would just be wanting to genuinely help you. So I really appreciated that too. Activity team, the team at the gym, like they were just so great to talk to. My server, unfortunately, was not the best. On the first night of the sailing, as I mentioned to you guys, I eat gluten-free. I told her like, hi, I have celiac disease. I'm gonna be eating gluten-free for the cruise. I did mark it beforehand. My husband's also eating gluten-free. And other people at the table literally said like, oh yeah, we'll eat gluten-free too. So, you know, there's no cross-contamination. She's like, oh, okay. Comes back like 5 minutes later, and then she just literally forgets all of that. Brought out a bread basket, like a regular bread, and then just kept on ordering. I don't know if she thought they were joking or what happened. Didn't like that from the beginning. For some reason, she thought that like vegetarian meant that I don't eat cheese or that I don't eat eggs. Like I think she thought vegetarian was vegan or something. I don't really know. She was confused though. Our waiter was very friendly and she was personable, but she just wasn't doing a good job at taking my orders accurately for one. And then for two, she didn't check up on us. And I find that to be a big no-no because you never know if someone will need something. Maybe they want some hot sauce, or maybe they need a new cutlery because they dropped theirs, or maybe the food was wrong. She didn't follow up. So that was something I found very frustrating. So this was a 6-night sailing. We had 3 sea days, 3 days in port. The first port day we had was in Grand Cayman, Cayman Island. It's been a minute since I've been in Grand Cayman. I believe it was around like 8 to 10 years ago I last was there.
To get into Grand Cayman, you had to take a tender, and the process of them handing out the tender tickets was just not organized well. Now, we went when our number was called, and it took about a half hour of waiting to get on a tender. So it was kind of frustrating that they were a bit slow. Like I kind of like tenders because you can get a cool view of the ship like riding away, but I don't like them because it takes a while to actually get to the island when there are long lines.
Last time I was there, we had an amazing time. This time, unfortunately, it was bad, like pretty bad. So the weather, thankfully, was very good when we were in Grand Cayman. My plan was just to go to the beach. I didn't want to spend a bunch on excursions, and I'm like, let's just go to the beach. But when I went out, you know, with my family, we're like, we want to go on an excursion. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we ended up going on an excursion. Now we got scammed. This guy's holding up signs and they're like, hey, we're gonna, you know, give you a tour of the island. We talked to the guy beforehand. I was like, I want to go to the beach. Are we gonna get to go to the beach? Can we get a ride back from the beach? And he's like, oh yeah, we can build that into the tour, no problem. Tour will be around like 2 hours, and after that you guys can go to the beach for like an hour and then we'll drive you back. We went on this tour and that did not happen. We literally drove around And he was pointing at things like, oh, this is a school, this is a bank, these are some rich people's houses, this is this is that. We stopped at a place which was hell, and basically it was just a tourist trap where they were selling a bunch of random stuff like merchandise, some random snacks that were overpriced, and then you saw the rock formations that looked like hell. So we stopped there and they basically wanted you to buy stuff, and everyone's like, no, we're good. So then we moved on to the next destination. The next place we stopped at was supposed to be a rum tasting, which was literally a tiny little shot of rum and a little tiny piece of rum cake. And I'm like, how is this enough for a tasting? Mind you, I didn't eat it because I'm gluten-free, and that was not gluten-free, but people we were with were like, we stopped here for a rum cake and a rum tasting, and the samples we got were tiny. So I didn't think that was worth it.
Also, the tour guide decided it was a good idea for us to drive by the island's trash dump. It smelled horrible, guys. Even with the windows closed, the smell came in, and he was like, oh yeah, this is where we dump all the trash on the island. It's like, why would you think people would want to see that? That's not like a tourist thing that you should show people.
And then at the end of it, they were like, oh, do you want to see turtles or do you want to go see dolphins? You're gonna have to pay $2 for the dolphins, $10 for the turtle. I was like, why do we have to pay anything to go here when we already paid a fee? But anyways, we decided to go see the dolphins. They were like in this little capture. People were going and taking photos with them, swimming with them. We were just watching until we could leave. I just wanted to go to the beach, mind you. So once that was over, we finally got to the beach. Once we got to the beach, the driver says, okay, go to the beach. You can take some photos for like 5 minutes and come back, but you can't swim. You can't get any sand or water in my car. So just go take your photos and come back. At this time, I was so angry. I was literally waiting the whole day to go to the beach. I had to sit through this 2-hour tour, which was super boring. And then he tells us we have 5 minutes at the beach. We went off, like, and then they said, oh, well, if you want to swim, you're gonna have to pay an extra like $5 and you gotta go back in a different cab, like we're not taking you. And I'm like, we already spent all this money, I'm not spending any more. It literally scammed us. We were told like, oh, you're gonna get this beautiful tour. The tour sucked. And we were told we were gonna get an hour at the beach. We got 5 minutes, we weren't allowed to go in the water. Like, no, it was horrible. So I definitely would not recommend these people. I'll throw their information below. Don't do this. Don't do this at Grand Cayman. Literally don't. If you want to do a tour, maybe book through Royal Caribbean. And also when we went to the beach, it was very rocky. So if you wanted like umbrella for your beach chair, you had to pay for that. Pretty sure if you wanted a chair, you had to pay. Like, they were trying to sell you on every little thing. So things have changed a lot since I've last been there. So the next port of call was Falmouth, Jamaica. Now, I always like going to Jamaica. Jamaican is my heritage other than Canadian. The weather in Jamaica was great. When we were in Jamaica, we decided to do a tour because people I'm traveling with love to do tours. And I thought, you know what? It's nice to have a tour because I can bring you guys along and you can see, you know, what's what with the tours. So we just did a driving tour that was about an hour. We went around the island and we got to stop at some areas. We got to take photos. We got to stop at like the local patty shop, not the tourist ones, and get some authentic patties. Yeah, it was actually a really nice time. The tour guide was actually very helpful as well. Instead of just being like, oh, this is some random person's house, this is this, he'd stop and give meaningful things.
Like, this is the school Usain Bolt went to.
We'd be able to speak to some locals if we wanted to. It wasn't just a tourist trap, you know? So I actually appreciated that tour. It wasn't bad. I'm not one who loves drive around tours that much because I prefer to just do an excursion where I'm doing an activity, but I wasn't traveling just with my husband, so I had to take other people's input into account. One thing I will say is if you do want to buy a coconut, you know, if you want to get a nice coconut water, do not do it right at the port because they upsell you like crazy.
You look like my uncle.
I told people not to do it, but they didn't listen to me. They ended up, I believe, spending like $6 on a coconut at the port. And then when you go right into Jamaica, right off the port, it's like $2. But if you are going to Jamaica, you can definitely do like a little tour. You can go to the beach as well.
And here's the info for the tour guide that we use if you're interested in booking from him.
Marvin Pick a Place Tours. Come to Falmouth, Jamaica. I'll take you on and show you a good time.
It was was a great tour for sure, and I really liked that he was able to adjust it to our needs. We did a 1-hour tour, but you can do up to a 3-hour tour if you wanted a more comprehensive, trip and view around Jamaica.
So the last port of call was Perfect Day at Coco Cay, Bahamas, which is Royal Caribbean's private island. So Perfect Day at Coco Cay is definitely one of my favorites. I love that I can just go and chill. I can go to the beach, I can go to the pool, I can eat, and everything's included. I don't have to spend any extra money on taxis or anything like that. I don't have people hounding me to buy things. It's just you go and you relax. They do have some upsell things if you did want to go zip lining, or if you wanted to go to the water park or the adults only area, stuff like that. I just did the complimentary things at Perfect Day because I'm like, I don't need to spend any money. It's just you can have fun for free. Or not free, but included. Perfect Day at Coco Cay though was not perfect. We got off the cruise ship and literally 5 minutes later it started dumping rain. Yeah. As it started raining, we were literally like out in the open, and then we kind of ran over to a bathroom, and there was a bunch of people sheltered in the bathroom from the rain because it was very, very heavy rain. And the water started coming in the bathroom, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so bad. Perfect day, okay. So yeah, it was not the best weather. Got literally soaked. I've been to Perfect Day at Coco Cay a lot, and this is the first time the weather was just really bad. After the weather cleared up, which took around like 15 minutes or so, the weather did pick up and it warmed up and it got a lot more sunny. I did go to the pool, swam there for a bit.
Weather's picking up.
It's cold.
I'm not lying.
We went to the beach. The ocean definitely had some nice temperature water. It wasn't like cold or anything. There were photographers from the ship who took photos in the water, which I thought was fun. The food was really good. I will say, when we were eating the food though, there were so many birds. Staff didn't really do anything about it. And the birds were fighting, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is annoying. So we kind of just ate and then we left after that. Something I do like about Perfect Day at Coco Cay though is that you have internet package is also included. It carries on over to the island. Your drink package is also carry over. Definitely recommend going out early if you do want to get a good chair, a good spot to sit. So yeah, not so perfect day. Usually you hear people say, oh, is your day perfect? Nobody said that this cruise. Which was really funny because it's like, yeah, we were literally caught in like a storm for a bit. So as I told you guys, this is one of Royal Caribbean's kind of smaller, older ships. And because of that, you can get sailings for a really good price. Your price you pay is going to fluctuate depending on the room you choose, whether you choose interior, ocean view, balcony, or a suite. So there was interior solo, and ocean view that we did. I'll have the prices on screen for you guys for all of that. I thought from what we got in terms of the food, the activities, the amenities, it was definitely a good value. Now, depending on when you are cruising, you know, the price can go up or down depending on the time of year and the capacity of the ship and all of that. If you're trying to save money, I would recommend interior. All right, guys, so there are some cons about Adventure of the Seas that I experienced. So the first one, which I kind of already touched on, was the cleanliness. You know, the bugs in the drink and the dirty cups and plates, that should never ever happen. But in addition to that, bugs were an issue in general, and I've never had an issue with bugs on any other cruise ship. There was also flies around the main dining room. There was 2 flies that kind of kept bugging me on different days. Hopefully the staff kind of killed them because that was the first 2 days and then they were gone. But they were kind of coming, one landed on my food and I'm like, I'm not eating this. So like the flies were an issue, and they were like those fat house flies. In addition to that, there were some like random like little beetle things and like these little flying bugs and some fruit flies. And guys, I hate bugs, like I really, really do. And then there was one day I went to open my room and there was a bug kind of around and we swatted it away. And then by the time I opened the door and closed it, it got in the room and Yeah, that was not great. And one of the reasons why I love cruises is because you don't have to deal with bugs usually. If I'm at a resort, there's constantly mosquitoes and flies and stuff coming around from outside. A cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, you shouldn't have to deal with any bugs. Now, I'm not saying it was like infested. I saw 13 bugs in total, because yes, I did count them. But 13 is too many when I usually see 0 on the cruises that I go on. Another con for me is there were people who had towels all over the chairs. It was hard to find a seat in the pool area. Staff didn't really do anything about it. Now, if you went in the morning or in the evening, it wasn't bad. I will say if I went to the solarium, it was easier to find a seat, which is the adults only pool area. Another con for me is that I felt like we were hassled a lot to buy the packages. On the first 3 days, usually it's like on the first day, I'm like, okay, but for 3 days, they kept saying like, hey, do you want to buy specialty dining? I'm like, no. Like, we have deals for you. I was like, no. I wasn't doing specialty dining this cruise because of what happened my last cruise. I'm like, I don't want to spend any extra money. I said no, but I kept getting asked and asked by the same people. And I'm like, you asked me before, like an hour ago. He's like, oh, my bad. We were also asked for the internet, for the alcohol packages, like all the packages they kept trying to sell. Don't get me wrong, I get it's their job, but asking someone once is fine. But if you're gonna ask me again and again and again, like, just stop. I'm not interested. Another con for me was the scheduling. So at a lot of times they had like big things I wanted to see. Like I had like a musical performance and the adult game show at the same time, and it was conflicting. And that was bugging me because I missed out on like a lot of things, like Love and Marriage game show. I was only able to watch for a few minutes because I had to go run off to another show I wanted to see. Scheduling things at the same time. So it was kind of hard. You had to pick and choose what you wanted to see. And I feel like they should have been more mindful with the shows. Don't schedule them at the same time. Another con on Adventure of the Seas was some areas smelled like crap, like really strong. You'd be walking by and you're like, oh my goodness. It just hits you in the face. And it's just like you wouldn't expect it. It wasn't even necessarily a bathroom. You'd just be walking by somewhere and it's like, whew. I think that's something that could be common with some of the older cruise ships having that happen. Another con for me was the elevators. There was constantly lines for elevators. Now, if you are someone who's a morning person, you're up at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you're probably fine. But if you're waking up at like 8:30 and if you're going to like 7 p.m., there's lines for the elevators almost constantly. For me, I was on deck 2, and if we wanted to go to Windjammer, that was on deck 11 or something. So that's a lot of stairs to walk up, which I didn't want to do. And sometimes you'd walk in there and you'd see all the buttons pressed.
Pretty much everything's pushed. Some kids did this.
Deck 5.
And on the last 2 days, we kept getting reminded about, hey, can you do the survey? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do the survey, no problem. I didn't like that basically they were kind of pushing you to be like, oh yeah, if you give us anything less than a 10, like it's basically seen as a 0. So you gotta give us a 10. It's like, you're not supposed to say that. And also, I'm not going to lie if my service is not a 10. Now, I realize it's their job. They got to say, hey, do the survey, but you don't have to tell me multiple times. One dinner, we were literally asked to do it by 3 different people. And I don't know if the manager was like, okay, I asked, now it's your turn. But like, it was very annoying. I said, this is not as bad as what I've experienced with some other cruise ships, mind you. But it was a lot. So now I'm going to talk about disembarkation, getting off the ship. So the night before the cruise ends, we were given a little ticket, and that ticket basically tells you when you're getting off the ship. So it has a number and a color. On the day of we woke up, we had breakfast. We went to the main dining room, and after we were done our breakfast, we went to our rooms to do a final check, make sure we didn't forget anything, grabbed our suitcases, and then we basically walked off the ship. It was a bit confusing figuring out which floor to go to. Usually the cruise ships will have a sign being like disembarkation here or exit here. There was no sign, so we kind of just were trying to follow people and like, where do we gotta go? Once we did find the right area to go off, we kind of just waited in line for a little bit, maybe like 5 minutes or so, and then we were able to get off the ship. And I felt like a lot of the staff were kind of grumpy in the morning in that area. They were like, oh, you're going in the wrong way, go here, go there. And it's like, how are people supposed to know where to go when you guys don't have signs up? So once we got off the ship, we were in this line for like customs or something like that, when they basically check your ID before you get off the cruise ship. That took so long. That took like
45 minutes
of just waiting in line. The lines are moving so slow. That was kind of a negative experience because it took forever to like get through that area. And once we got off of the ship, it was kind of an easy process of finding the taxi and the ride sharing areas where we can go and grab a ride so we can get out of there. But yeah, I'd say overall it was a bit slow of a process and it could have been more organized, having signs to tell people where they need to go. Yeah, I definitely have had smoother disembarkation processes. All right guys, so considering the price of the cruise, the quality of the food, the room, the customer service, the activities, the entertainment, and more, I'd go ahead and give Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas
A 6.4 out of 10.
and I definitely do give it a thumbs up. So if you guys are looking to sail on Adventure of the Seas, I've gone and left a link down in the description for you to use. And if you've ever been on this cruise ship before, let me know your experience. Was it good? Was it bad? Share with me and the family in the comments below. All right, guys, so I am going to be doing more cruises coming up this year, 2026. I also have some booked for 2027 and beyond, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel with your post notification bells turned on so you don't miss those videos when they drop. And if you guys have watched a video and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do Adventure of the Seas, maybe the bug thing scared you a little bit, maybe you want to go on something bigger, definitely recommend checking out Royal Caribbean's Odyssey of the Seas cruise ship. It is one of Royal Caribbean's most technologically advanced ships, one of their newest ships also, and it comes with a lot more food options, even more activities as well. So if you're interested in that, find that video linked in the description below. If you have any questions for me, if there's anything I missed that you want to know, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. I do read all the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.